Good morning. So, this is a little mapping tool that I've come across and has been tempting me on Steam for a little while. You know, when you look at your normal games and it pops up to saying, oh, this might be of interest to you. And I always thought, Canvas of Kings, what is that? Strange name, Canvas of Kings, but it's a canvas. But you make maps. And as you can see, they're sort of line art style. But I was always thinking, nah, I don't really need another mapping tool. And this one is one of where the publisher, the programmer, the developer, Hannes Breuer, actually reached out and said, you know what, why don't you want to try this out? I guess he's seen some of the other mapping stuff I've done. And he sent me free code. So just so you know, this is actually one of the very few things that I haven't paid for myself that I present on here. So this is a first look. First impressions, wait a minute, you'll see what is special about this. It looks a little bit like Dungeon Draft. Yeah, including the UI design. But let's have a look. So we've got a village here. This is a user map. A user made this. This is from the Steam workshop. So you can already see it's animated. We've got a little bit of lighting on here. We've got the smoke going here. We've got the trees wobbling. But let me show you what this person has done with this. I think it's a good way of showing this. So we don't just have a house. We have a little, whatchamacallit, fortified village. Let me just turn the music down a bit more, so it doesn't compete with me. And we've got some woods, and we've got some paths. Nice. Okay, let's zoom out a bit more. The red frame up there is the print area. So let's have a look. How about this? So we don't just have that little village on this canvas. We have an entire city. Don't know my scroll. Well, that's basically the map. So, not bad, is it? So you can see that the style is very much like this. You can change coloring, you can put cloud cover over it, you can have flying birdies and all that sort of stuff. You can even have weather and rain, but let's just zoom in here. Yeah, so here we have still birds, because they're not flying right now. They look a bit dead, don't they? Like they've been run over or something. But you can have them flying, and we have here beautifully rendered. These are all hand-drawn assets, apparently. A church, which basically you have to cobble together yourself. So this is not one asset. This is made from lots of assets layered over the top of each other. And you can basically see that by rotating something in here, Wheel of Fortune. You can see that this is all put together quite carefully. Yeah? You can even change it and say, actually, I want this tower here to be above the roofs. No, that doesn't quite work. It seems to be at maximum height. You can change the sizing of it, make it bigger, a bit smaller. Yeah. So you can see it's basically been a bit of work here. There is some automation. I'm going to show you this, but just before I go into any detail, I just wanted to show you, if you had time on your hand and if you have the will to learn the tool, it's not terribly difficult. This is the sort of thing you can do with it. Now, line style, great. Really goes well with things like Forbidden Lands, for example, which is exactly the sort of art style. Or could play a Simba room in here. Doesn't quite look dark enough, but we can change the lighting. And definitely somebody has been spending a lot of time on this. This is purely top-down. You have a little bit of a 3D effect by the shadow cast. And of course, by the parallax. So if you go and do a camera thing, it's hard to see on here, but basically there's a little bit of parallax at the roofs in the foreground move at slightly different speed. Yeah, you can't see that on here. Right, so that's a pretty good nifty little tool, I think. But let me show you what it looks like when it's actually in canvas mode. So, new. What do we get? We get a canvas. No, that's where it's, I guess, the name. Yeah, that's probably where it comes from. Then you've got the menus here on the side. Hopefully they're big enough. I can actually, in the settings, just put the UI scale a bit higher. So you see it a bit better. So this looks very much like Dungeon Draft, I think. So you have, for example, you want a tent? Okay, you go over here to the tent. Right, and you can see that there are several tents available, and they cycle through. You can also hit tab to select the one that you want somewhere. You can rotate Q and E, or once it's placed, you can rotate it as well, and you can navigate the canvas with your usual first-person shooter WASDs. Yeah, so let's place that there. If you click on it again, you get the editing options. You can change orientation. You can change the height. You can see that just in the shadow cast. Now it's a flying tin. Look at that. Not bad. It's even wobbling while it's up there. Or you can sink it a little bit into the ground. It's quite flat. So it's either there or it's not there. You can copy it from here and say, I want another one of these. I don't think you can colorize these, actually. But you can colorize the entire map. So that's the sort of basic operation for individual objects. There's quite a few objects here. You can get things like latrines, very important. You can have windows and so on. So that basically means you can build stuff yourself. You can have a pub bar. Let's do an open air pub here. Why not? It's Wacken Festival. Tables, etc., etc. And there's not a huge list here of things, but you can see, if I click on here, object list, you can see that behind each of them with a little icon, you've got a few. So you've got a few broken branches, you've got a few different trees, you've got a few rocks, etc. Yeah, so that's quite nice to navigate. You can also use, once you know what the assets are, you can just use the text version of this. I think most of this is quite obvious. So the next thing you have is the pathing tool. So you can, for example, have a hedge. Let's say I want a hedge now. You just put a few nodes out. This is made with a software called Godot, or with a language called Godot. Not quite sure what that is, but waiting for Godot, of course. And there's any pathing tool here. You can now take any of the nodes. You can then say, okay, I want the edge smoothing. And you can do this sort of pathing thing that you know from graphics design programs, which is quite nice. So it doesn't always have to be as right angles. You get a few more organic shapes this way, which I quite like. Yeah, looks a bit round. That's probably not the best example because there's so few of them. Let's use something else. Bit of pathing here. And you can snap it or you can disable snap, but this is currently snapping. So if you wanted to smooth this out, again, go to this one here, and you can see how that gets smoothed and broken up. You can also add extra nodes and take them out, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and you can also change the height. So let's see whether this is, yeah, you can sink this into the ground a little bit. Or make it fly even. So this not being 3D, however, you sometimes get different aspects of your assets. So it can look quite nice. You can have bridges, you can have rivers, you can have paths. One thing that I think it's Dungeon Draft, when you hold tab basically gives you the labels over each of these. And they're not so many, but that could be a nice little thing. You can do a path of trees for a nice little avenue. Yeah, I think, okay. With tab you can basically randomly use the different assets in that group, which is quite nice. But normally, that's not how trees grow, is it? So the next tool, and as I said, we've got roads in here, we've got fences in here, we even got castle walls. Maybe I should just show you the castle walls, because they're quite cool. Impromptu castle, there you go. Not bad, is it? Yeah. Yeah. Normally, forests grow in areas. So this is a nice little thing, this area tool. You basically just sketch out an area and said, I want this filled, please, with trees. And that actually looks pretty good. Now, it's grouped lots of assets together, as you can see. And if you click on one tree, you can say, oh, here, with this icon, you can rip one of the assets out and say, this one I want bigger, or this one I want flying, or this one I want a bush in the ground, like that. Yeah, or you can rotate it. So you can actually ungroup the assets that were created like this. Again, a nice little touch and actually very useful. You can have a tavern on the woods, on the green here. Different ones again. You can have horses. So you can really get into this sort of the small of asset placement. And here we've got a cow. Yeah, horses and cows. That's pretty much it, isn't it? Horse left, horse right. Yeah. So these are the objects. I'm back at the objects. I really wanted to go into the zones. So you've got water in here. You've got ground with grass. If you want to say the canvas here should be grassy. It's quite quick. Yeah, and you can edit it. So that was already grass. Didn't quite work. has cliffs. Now this one here, on the edges, I guess you get cliffs, but let's try a different area, actually. Let's get rid of that plot. Let's use one where we can see the difference with flowers. So if you now look at it, we've got flowers, and if I put cliffs on it, basically it's got a raised flower bed effect. It's got edges. Yeah? Good. Now, we can also make these big sort of castle tools here. So I can do, this is the keep. Right. So that's actually quite nice as well. Doesn't just have to be towers. You can have a bigger bastion here somewhere. You can build a few of these and you can put different things on it. Now, if I am right, I don't think you can actually height adjust this one. Doesn't seem to have the tools for it. The towers here you can height adjust. Yeah, and to make that look a bit bigger. And this tower here, it's a bit bigger. And the wall in between, you have got some options to say, okay, the left-hand side, I want a wall, I don't want a wall. But you can change things like this. Look at that. It's quite cool. Have a gatehouse in there instead. Yeah, so just to give you a few ideas how this actually works. Now, we can have rooms. So you can basically build a village with rooms. So you can say in the castle here, I want a... What did I use here? A blacksmith. You can reshape it. You can rotate it. Put it right under there. Yeah, so again, it's a nice quick tool to do these things. Now, this is, as you can see, it's randomly populated. So if you select it and hit tab, it will try a few other suggestions what you could be doing. You can also grab things like the door here. You can take it out of the grouping and say, I want the door over there. Done. Yeah. Okay, you can then create deco objects. And this is the random fill as far as I can see. The random fill of it. But you could, in theory, also go in and say, I want a different wall type, I want this wall type, and I want a different floor type. So I want, don't know, that one. So, what's next? This I haven't played with, but you can basically load your own images into it. As I said, I haven't tried that at all. And I don't have a lot of images for this, so might not want to try that right now. But I think you can basically have a mountain range, or you can have parts of maps, or you can have assets that you have created yourself. What you can add in here are PNG, JPEGs, SVGs, WebPs. So if you have assets, I'm not sure what they work with Dungeon Alchemist, Dungeon Draft. It might. Use them there. Then we can change the light. So if you say that's too sunny, let's darken it down a bit. Different feeling entirely, maybe for the nighttime. You can have the brightness of you can have the color of the light you want to change. Yellow light, if that's what you prefer, or an orange. Or you want to be in the Feywild, so you make everything a little purple. Yeah. Pretty neat. Again, you can, I'll show you that in a minute. You can change the light that comes out of the windows here. Yeah, can you see that on the house, on the inn? And again, you've got all the different ways of changing your colors. You see the smoke that's going on here. If you say, I don't want any smoke, there you go, switched off. You can change wind direction, so the smoke is a different color, or you can have it's black smoke because we haven't got a new pope yet. Things like that. So, finally, now there's two ways of managing this. You can either use this to print maps on, which, yeah, okay, some people do. And you can have a grid on it. Now, if you show the grid here, you see that basically this is an A4 page at this point, depending how big you make your map. Now, what I was expecting is top corner. You can just grab it and make it bigger, but it doesn't quite work. So what you would have to do to change the map size is down here to say, okay, actually, let's make the grid size a bit bigger. But I haven't worked out yet if you have more tiles. How does that work? Or if you take the tile size off. If you say 5, for example. apply. No, I don't know how that works. Whether you can have this bigger, basically. No, I can change the map size like this, so I've got more squares on it, but then I can't have more squares, if that makes sense. So it's probably me. I hasn't worked that out yet. Or you can do the whole thing in digital. Yeah, so on digital here, for example, I've got I've selected that it's going to be landscape because it's a screen. You can change your map size here again. It doesn't give you more grid spaces, but it gives me different ones. You can change the color to something less screamy. You can change the thickness. That's the minimum thickness though. So, and you can work, of course, with other grids. You can have a hex grid instead if you like. But you don't necessarily need that, right? Because a lot of the VTTs don't need that. They have got their own one. So you can also export it, and that's probably, other than the highlight at the end, that's probably the most important thing here. So if you wanted to export this map, you go to export mode. You can see export screen. So you can zoom it to where you want it. Screen, export screen. Yeah, the visible area. You can have it with grid or without grid. You can see the grid doesn't quite fit, but you can shift it. So I'm going to have that out. You can choose your quality up here, your file type, and then you can export it. Yeah. You can also export it as a little video. Now that's something I've done before. I'll just show you that. So this is another map I made earlier. And if you export it as a video, can you see how the trees are moving, the smoke is moving? Now this would actually be nice. It's the 15-second loop. That could be quite nice if you're, okay, a bit more elaborate than this. You can put this into VTT and it looks pretty good. Yeah, and if you put it as WebP, is this WebP or is it JPEG? That's a WebM, sorry, not WebP. So 14 seconds is 2.6 megabyte. That's fine. That works fine. So that might make it a nice background for your VTT. So, the last highlight I want to show you, and this is, as I said, it's just a whistle-stop tour. I've spent about a couple of hours now with this tool, so definitely not an expert. If you go to the Steam Workshop, this is really where a lot of good stuff comes from. You have basically maps here that have been shared by people. And that's one of the best resources. Of course, the more you get, we currently have 5 pages worth here, the more you get, the harder it is to navigate that without tagging and so on. But for example, if I just show you another couple of maps here. So this was City of Bamblebrook. No, that's not quite the one I showed you, was it? Actually, it was. That's the one I showed you. So by Howell. I wanted to show you one of these cliffside maps, like this one, Splitter Castle. Splitter means splinter. So if I open this one for a moment, downloading, please wait. I think here you get a really good feel of what's possible in the tool. So we've got snow, we've got, I think that's fog rather than cloud, because you can have cloud shadows switched on. We've got a ship here coming in. This feels very Icewind Dale to me. Yeah, we've got the beautiful equipped courtyards here. We've got a person standing over there. We've got barrels, and you can actually start fiddling about with it and changing it entirely. Yeah. But this place feels reasonably alive. Not that there are many people, but I quite like this, to say, okay, here's your map. Pretty nifty. You can publish your own stuff. You can share your own stuff if you want to. I haven't done that yet because nothing I've done is worth it yet. But for example, here we've got Porta Westfalica, which is not actually port, but okay. What shall I show you? There was one other cliff map. Where's the cliff map gone? Ship by a cliffside. I don't know. Here we've got Torino Lago. The tower in the sea, I believe that means. Just open this as well. So a much easier map. But again, you can see that the water is slightly animated here around the edges. We've got a boat over there. Nowhere to go. We've got a stable with a few carts. Not quite sure how those are going to get out, those horses, but okay. So much easier map to do. Anyway, that's a quick overview. It seems to be a one-man band. The guy who did this basically didn't come from an RPG background. He was doing stuff for other computer games or with other computer games and just wanted a quick sketching tool. And it developed from that. I think this lends itself very nicely to a particular graphic style, as you can see in the workshop here, using coloring. It looks a little bit different. You can have a few different styles in it, but in the end, it's top-down line graphics with a few really good tools to quickly sketch something together, or have something that is not immersion breaking, if you like. That feels like the old printed maps in the good old D&D or similar. Other role-playing games exist and are normally better than D&D. In the old books, is what I'm trying to say, in the old modules with a little bit of animation. So, nice little tool. You can get it on Steam. I have no idea what did it cost. Do you want me to look it up? Store page. Canvas of Kings. Oh, Canvas of Kings. £12.71 that costs currently. As I said, thanks to Hannes Breuer, I got it for free. Really appreciative of that. Might write him a review as well. I've got a couple of hours now on it. So there you go. Just go and check it out. I'm sure it's a deserving tool to have in your toolbox. So, see you soon, everybody.